What's up everybody, Soul here with another video for your viewing pleasure, and today we're taking a look at Crimson Desert. So many people are picking it up and playing the game. I figured it'd be a great time to get a beginner's guide out because I see so many people just kind of lost in the sauce because this game is massive. Crimson Desert is intricate, it's deep, and it can be very overwhelming. And so I figured with this guide, I'll keep things nice and simple and we'll talk about it. And yeah, first and foremost, let me just say Crimson Desert is basically it's a love child between Assassin's Creed and, well, I'd say Elden Ring maybe. Just think of it that way. Think of it as like an Assassin's Creed game with a very intricate fighting system. Let's say it that way. It's like a fighting game when it comes to the combat. But it's like Assassin's Creed when it comes to exploration, and then the multiple systems all layered throughout the game, which, don't get stressed out, all that stuff comes with time. I will say, as a final caveat before we begin to really go through everything, is yeah, this game does not hold your hand. So make sure you pay attention. Let's go through this step by step together, and we'll talk about it all in its entirety. And so starting out, as you can see, I am right here at the very beginning of the game. And this is where you will start as well. You'll come up to this camp. You have your general basic movement to consider. But before we get into that, let's talk about the HUD. And so as you can see right here, you have the day of your journey. So we're on day 0 because we just started. You got the day of the week right there. And then you have the time of the day. All of this matters and is important, so make sure you're paying attention right there. And then of course next to it you've got the current weather of your area that you are in. Very nice, clean, and well placed. Of course underneath that you've got where it says the current territory that you're in or the area region that you're in, and so that's a fantastic piece. You can see we're at the hills of no return. That's important information. Whether you retain it or not, that's completely up to you. Then see you down below, you've got your mini map, but off to the right of your mini map, you've got what is your temperature gauge. And so this is telling you whether or not you're comfy, whether you're too cold or you're too hot, which of course red is the hot, cold is blue, and then comfy is that nice green zone right there in between. On the left, what you have there is an experience bar. And so this will show you how far along you are as far as your experience in the game and how close you are to your levels. Really important stuff right there to be taken into consideration. And then on top of that, when you're in conflict, you'll get a couple other things that pop up down there on that screen, which is down at the bottom, you'll see your spirit gauge, which looks like a leaf. It'll fill up over time. You've got your quick food item, so you're going to eat to regain health, spirit, or even stamina, and so that's right there. You can choose which item goes into that by simply holding down that right D-pad button and switching through the analogs, and you get to choose which one you want to use there. Very useful stuff right there. And then you're going to take a look at underneath that, and that is your health bar. And so your health bar, of course, I don't need to explain it, it's how much health you have. Who'd have thought, right? Really important stuff. The last thing I'd say that's on this HUD that you need to see that's a permanent fixture is, of course, your quest. It shows right there the title of your current quest and then what you're doing for that quest. So we're in unfamiliar lands and we're to head to the cabin, which is a nice indication right there with the X mark. And then that X mark, of course, shows down there on the mini map, and it says how far it is from us, which is a nice 50 meters. That's about as much hand holding as you're going to get in this game, so enjoy it. The next thing I'd say is your stamina, which is on your character. When anytime you take an action or you move around, you're going to see that on your character, that stamina gauge. It looks like a swirl, and it kind of goes up and down and can dissipate, fall and recover, you name it. Really good stuff there. It's only ever visible when you're utilizing that stamina though. So really good stuff right there. Now you know that is your HUD, and it is very, well, in my opinion, clean. It looks fantastic. And then I'd say the very last thing that I would say about the HUD is that you have these gold icons that show up when applicable And so that's a status effect or bonus that you have from your equipment. And one that you'll see most often in the game, I'd argue is very, very important, is the mask, which I call incognito, but it just means that you're masked and that you are capable of committing crimes. And so that's what those gold icons are down there next to your health bar and your spirit or your energy. And so make sure you pay attention to what's down there, look for those things, and yeah, really, really nice, clean HUD in my opinion. Now moving along right here, I will say before we go further, if you're not playing this game on a controller, you're making a mistake. That's my opinion, of course. You can disagree, but for me, this game is completely different with a controller, and it needs to be played on a controller. And so for the rest of this guide, I'm going to be utilizing verbiage that addresses those that are on controller. So just bear that in mind. That is the way to play, in my opinion. I'll try to say things kind of neutral as in button, but yeah, do yourself a favor, pick up a controller, get on it. But with that said, when you're moving around, you're going to use your left analog stick to move around. Of course, that's WSD and ASW and DW on the computer, blah, blah. And so that's definitely an option too. But that's your general movement. It's very, very seamless. It's very, very easy. Now, when you are outside of general movement, you can press X to get a nice little jog going. You can press X again to get a sprint going, which is going to drain your stamina even faster. And then you can, well, we'll call that a run, because then you can toggle or keep pressing A. We can keep pressing A for a actual sprint, which is going to drain our stamina the fastest out of all of the options. And so that, remember, requires you to keep pressing A. So we'll go over it again. You got your general movement, which is a walk. You press A one time, you get a nice little slow jog. Press it again, then you get a run. Then you press it again repeatedly, you get a full sprint maximum effort run. Very, very useful, good information right there with your moving. With that said, targeting is the next thing I'm going to say is important. When you walk up on NPCs or items or terrain, the environment in general, you're going to get lots of little notifications and things that you can target and affix to. These things will auto target, but if you want to slow down and make sure you're targeting the correct thing, you want to utilize that left bumper. That left bumper is going to pull up your lantern, and it's going to allow you to simply give you a crosshair and target what you want by pointing at it slowly. Very, very useful stuff right there. You can target who you want, and then you can interact with them as you see fit. Of course, there is a hard lock on the targeting by pressing down on the D-pad, and that's going to allow you to simply lock onto a target period dot no matter what. And when you do so, you're going to be able to see everything that there is with that target as far as your camera just being hyper zoomed in on them. I don't care for this unless I'm in a fight with a single target in a, with like a boss. Otherwise, I don't use the hard lock targeting system pretty much at all. I'm using soft lock, pretty consistent, and I'm using that to kind of aim and point where I want as needed. Now, before going any further as far as movement, we have to acknowledge a few other things. Like, of course, you can jump in this game, and you can even unlock a double jump. When you unlock a double jump, it's pretty nice. It can be argued that it's useless because once you get force palm to a certain level, which we'll talk about more later, you're going to be able to double jump and then boost yourself into the air. Of course, there's also a gliding system in this game where you can glide to and from different points. And then pretty much just like Assassin's Creed, if you can see it, you can climb it. You can climb just about everything in the game. Have fun with it. Do what you want. Just bear in mind that stamina gauge. With that all said, this is a phenomenal game as far as the movement and what you can do and how much you can take advantage of that movement in the game. It's a lot of fun, a lot of diversity. Take your time, learn it, and enjoy it. Now, let's talk about the interaction. As you can see, we're right here, we're approaching several people. Automatically, it will start to target the different targets and points. Sometimes NPCs will require you to stand in a very specific spot in order to interact with them. Just bear that in mind, mostly shopkeepers. With that said, you can, of course, soft target and point at who you want. And then when you get in that sweet spot, it'll allow you to interact with them and do various things. Now, when you want to interact with them, of course, it's going to have you press that button to do so, which X is the general interact button. For the most part, when it comes to the environment and you're interacting with it, you're going to press X, and sometimes it'll require you to hold down X to interact with it. This is mostly true when you're in areas where there's multiple things to target at once to confirm that you want to send that action through. It makes things seamless and nice. That way you're not accidentally pressing multiple things and getting things confused. Holding down that X button just makes everything nice, smooth, and clean for you and your interacting. With that said, let's just lightly cover stealing. When you steal, you're required to have a mask, which we'll talk about later, but you can generally target the item, and you'll notice it doesn't have you using X, which is the general interaction button. It will now switch to A. I believe this mapping is intentional. It is to prevent us from accidentally stealing when we don't want to. So that way, you very intentionally have to press A in order to steal, versus the regular X that you would use to interact with everything else in the world. And once again, I can't stress enough, most of the time when you interact with something in the world, you're going to have to hold down that X, long form it, in order to confirm your action, as you can see there. With that said, let's talk about trust. As you see, I just spoke to this individual and I gained trust with that individual for doing so. That's phenomenal. Any NPC that you see or you can interact with, you can of course build trust with. Most NPCs and characters don't have names and instead general titles. They won't persist and stay around, and so building trust with them is largely ineffective, but if that's how you want to play, that's fine. In reverse, taking negative actions against them, like running into them over and over again, will break their trust and will frustrate them and even provoke them to the point that they will attack you. It'll give you a negative trust stat with these characters. Sometimes they won't even want to talk to you until you have to have a nice amount of time away from them. This is important when it comes to key NPCs. As you can see now, I'm unable to greet him. He wants nothing to do with me. And so key NPCs, we want to make sure we don't accidentally bump into, run into over and over again and upset, because then we just have to walk away and leave, and we just created an unintentional timer on our actions and what we're doing in the game. So that's just something to consider and think about there. Now, after a couple quick cutscenes, you'll quickly be thrusted into combat, and yeah, combat is a whole pickle within itself, so let's go ahead and hit that real quick. You're going to have your right bumper, which is your basic general attack, and then your right trigger, which is like your faster flurry attacks that hit farther and allow you to go farther. Your basic attack with the right bumper is what will engage in those kill animation scenes, which create invincibility frames. Very important information right there. Whereas the right trigger, of course, is great for closing gaps, moving around, and hitting our opponents in various ways. And yeah, past that, think of it as like a fighting game, where you're going to learn different button combinations to utilize different combos at different points to ensure your success in combat. Make sure you take your time, learn them as you go, but generally you're relying on those two buttons to start. And then of course you have the combination of both buttons when you hold down, which kind of does like a wham bam thank you ma'am big hit. Something to take into consideration. All attacks use stamina, and when your stamina runs out, clearly you won't be able to attack. Now in combat, I generally like to soft target, which is hold down that left bumper to choose my targets and point, and that keeps the camera pointing the way that I want, allowing me to attack with accuracy. Otherwise, it's just free target and it won't stay locked, and you can just swing around as aimlessly as you please, but you may regret it. With that said, another really good point is that hard lock target. You only really want to utilize that in boss fights, in my opinion, but play it your way, do what you want, and have fun with it. If you want more information on combat and ways to be successful in combat, be sure to check out my combat tips video. That link will be shown right here on screen. With that said, let's take a look at the menus. And so real quick, before we get into the menus, if you press the menu button, which on a controller is start, and you hold it down, you'll be given a quick menu button or tab where you can see all the various menus and can access them very, very quickly. With that said, you can just press that start button to open up your menu and get where you want to be regardless, which brings up the whole screen. Now, the very first tab we have is the map. The map is, of course, something you're going to utilize very, very often. As you can see, you can move around freely on the map and look at all the various things, and you have lots of tabs down below where it says all, quest, environment, and factions. And so before we go any further, let's acknowledge those tabs. All, of course, shows pretty much all the important information, and the closer you zoom in, the more it shows. The further you zoom out, the less it shows. Very, very simple in that way. Now, let's say you're focused on a quest and you're just trying to figure out where to go. Then you're going to press that right or left trigger, depending on which way you're trying to go, and you're going to tab over to that quest. Now you're able to see your quests, and you're able to easily target them, and then when you highlight them, it'll give you a nice breakdown of that quest and what's required for that quest. Very, very simple stuff. Very, very effective. Then tabbing over again to environment. This is probably my favorite tab out of all of them. This really cleans it up to where you can see all the interactables in that area or in the world, and it allows you to nicely see it regardless of the distance of your zoom. This is something I find myself using all the time, and yeah, very, very useful in that way. And then of course the last tab is faction, where you're able to choose the certain building, structure, you name it, on the map and see where it lies as far as its factions, its loyalties, and what's going on there. And then of course you can click on it for more information and detail, but that's a video to cover all within itself. Just know that each area and each faction has a breakdown, a faction summary, and even missions that are tied to it. This game is incredibly deep. With that said, moving right along, the next tab you want to take a look at, of course, oh, I'm sorry, let's finish up maps here. The next thing you want to look at on maps is you're able to place destinations. You're going to press A to add a destination of your own, and you can of course press A again to remove it. If you put in a destination down in one spot and then you try to place down a destination in another spot, it just moves that destination. You can only have one up at any given time. With that said, you press in the left analog stick in order to go to the character wherever they are, and then you can press R or press in that right analog stick to take a look at the abyss. This is something story related that I won't go too into detail about. We will learn about this relatively quickly in the game. With that said, let's tab back over to the land. Of course, using the right analog stick, we can zoom in and out, left analog stick, move around, and then we can also leave markers. Markers are fantastic because maybe you want to put something down that's important and we want to just make it known or remember it. We can put a nice little marker down to help us remember, like, oh, I want to come back right here. And you can, of course, have multiple markers, which makes it very, very handy to do whatever you need to do in the map. Fantastic stuff right there. Makes life easy in a way. Unfortunately, you're not able to title markers and or choose the shape from what I'm able to see, but maybe one day we'll get that. Regardless, this is a nice feature. And then of course now we can tab over to the next tab, which is our inventory. And so our inventory right here, as you can see on the left side, is everything we have equipped. And then you of course can tab through all of that and analyze it, check it out, do what you want with it, take it into consideration. Very, very nice stuff. You've got one single headpiece, you've got a heavy weapon, then you have your, of course, your weapon, your shield or offhand weapon. You got your gloves, your armor, your mantle, and your boots. Very, very nice stuff right there. Now this is your tool where I have the fishing rod right here, and then right over here is your heavy weapon where you can have your two-handed weapon equipped. Then you have a dagger. That's for your assassinations and things like that. Something you can do. You can stealth in this game and assassinate. Then you have your rings, and then of course you've got this, which is just, it's your bracelet. It goes there, it stays there, it is there, story. And then moving up, you've got your backpack. You of course got, you know, your face, which is where you wear your mask. You've got your lantern, which I try to skip right over. Then you got two earrings, and then you have a glasses slot and a necklace slot. And then you have, of course, the arrow slot right here where you can equip different things there. With that all said, you can tab through your pets. When you have pets, you will eventually get them and earn them. And then, of course, your horse, which each have their own inventory. And yeah, like the horse levels up, does different things. It's pretty immersive. It's pretty incredible, man, honestly. The amount of things you can do in here. And you can see down here your mount. It shows what they're capable of. Nice little breakdown of their health, their stamina, their attack, their defense, blah, 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 blah. Really, really cool stuff there. And of course you have a trust meter, always trying to build the trust with everything. Looking over here on the right side is the meat and bones of your inventory, where you can see it tells you how many key items you have and regular items, and then it shows you your inventory amount. Like I have 119 on my max inventory. I can go through my whole inventory here and kind of choose what I want out of all of it, and you can interact with it in various different ways. When it comes to a food, you can hold down that A and you have the choice to eat, to take it out, or to just cancel. Make sure you toggle that and hold that A down, and you can interact with them in various different ways. Place some meat down for animals to eat or maybe to cook, you name it. Of course, there's different points of interest where you can cook, but it's nice that you have the option to do so. With that said, you of course can discard items that you don't want. So let's say we don't just want this shrubby Sephora. I can press X and discard one, or I can hold down X to just discard all of them with a nice simple select. When you discard an item, they fall on the ground and they're there for you to pick back up. So don't panic and think that they're just gone forever. And now, that is everything with your inventory. Last thing I'd say probably is that you can sort this, and I would recommend you doing so, of course, because that makes life easier. And then, of course, you can hold down that right trigger and sort it different ways, and it just toggles through them all. Sort by type, price, enhancement, you name it. Play with it, have fun with it. Date acquired. I like to sort by type, top to bottom, keep it simple, but that's just me. Also, I'd like to add that you can expand your inventory by simply completing quests and even visiting shops and purchasing small pouches to slowly expand your inventory. The more purchases you make and the more quests you complete, the larger your inventory gets throughout the game. It's very, very nice. Moving right on over, you've got, of course, your journal. Now, your journal is nice because it tells you all about the main quests, where it shows you your completion in those main quests, which is broken down into chapters. And then, of course, you've got faction quests, which it tells you how many you can have in total. That is both depressing and wonderful at the same time, because you're able to accurately track how far you are in the game, which can be heartbreaking at times, but it's nice overall. And then, of course, when you click on each one, you can see the various different things that are required. You can toggle the tracking. You can even open it up on the map if it's possible. Collapse them, open them up. There's a lot there. It's fantastic. Jumping on over to challenges, these things are what you find in various places in the world. You'll often find little ritual stands with these challenges there. They're picked up as cubes. And when you pick them up and you analyze them, it'll unlock the next challenge, allowing you to do whatever it is that you're needing to do, which will get you an Abyss artifact reward or something else akin to it, which is necessary for leveling up. Something we're going to get to in a minute. So challenges are very, very important. Do not ignore them. Try to complete them as best as possible and try to seek them out in the world. By traveling the roads, you'll find lots of challenges. Not too hard to do. Just make sure you're paying attention and exploring as you go. Jumping on over to knowledge. Knowledge is all the various lore, details, and facts about the world, which is really, really nice and interesting. Anytime you want to learn something new, this makes for a very interesting and decent read, where we can pick up lots of new information on the various characters and so on in the world. Very, very nice there. Absolutely love lore and getting more information on it. And then, of course, you got notifications. And so this is basically anything you've done in the game. It keeps track of it, even dates it and times it, which is phenomenal. And it tells you where you've been and what you've done and how you've gone about it. This can be really useful, and of course you can clear it all if you don't care. But maybe you've done something and you're like, shoot, where was that dog I loved? I want to go back and find it. Well, you just pull up your notifications, backtrack, and try to find that dog. Remember where you were in the time frame, and then yeah, makes life a little bit easier. And that way, I mean, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, but for me it does. You can sit here and you can examine the end of a mission, and it shows you where you did it and what happened there. So really, really nice. Details, information. Phenomenal stuff there. Anyways, looking at that some more, I'm going to go back over the journal. We're going to jump now over to skills. Now this is where most people absolutely spend most of their time in the menu outside of map, let's be honest. And so when you're looking at your skills, you can see right there I have two different characters right there on the left and right trigger. It affects them in slightly different ways, but overall these skills overlap. So when you level up a skill for one character, let's say stamina, it affects all of the characters. When you level up other skills though, it's slightly different. So like we've maxed out armed combat on Cliff. When we jump on over and look at our girl right here, Domain. Anyways, we can see that it's a slightly different layout and it doesn't have that armed combat maxed out anywhere. That's unlucky. It's slightly different in that it doesn't affect her in that way, and you'll get other followers too. I'm not going to spoil that or say anything else. Just know that when you're playing, for me, I spend most of my time with Cliff. He's the main character, and so I spend most of my energy leveling him up and focusing on him. And if it overlaps the other, then I'm happy, and if it doesn't, it doesn't. With that said, let's take a look at each skill. As you can see, my armed combat is maxed out. I can press A to look at the details, and then you can see what you get with each time you level it up, and they're of course broken up into different sections, letting you know that when you level it up you get different ones at different points. Some skills, when you level them up, will give you two skills in a single point section when you unlock it. So as you can see, there's two skills in this area. When you unlock this, you get both of those. When you unlock the next level, you get both of these. So just pay attention to what you're looking at, and of course, as you can see, each skill has a summary. It tells you how much stamina it requires to utilize it, and then of course tells you how to utilize it with a beautiful little video showing it being utilized. So that's fantastic. We absolutely love that. And then of course you can see down here at the bottom right, there's things you can click on to further enhance that, which of course is like switching weapons. You can see what that looks like when you have a spear, if it's applicable. And yeah, a great sword, you name it. As you can see, we've got that heavy strike with the great sword. Let's switch that weapon now. We're back to sword and board, it appears. Switch that out now. We're bare knuckle fisting fighting with that rising dragon. Switch it up, swift stab. Fantastic stuff. Switch it out again. That's spear. Absolutely love it. So you can see each skill has a different effect based on the weapon that you have equipped. You don't have to stress having a different skill per weapon so much as that each skill affects each weapon differently, but it's all one buy and one purchase point. Very, very nice right there. A lot of relief when I saw that personally. I'm just going to be honest with you. It was a lot to keep up with. Once I saw I could have multiple weapons, I was like, oh, what are we going to do here? It's going to be too much to keep up with. And nope, they consolidated that part nicely. And then of course, if you've leveled up your stuff and you're not happy with it, you can reset your skills. By holding down the X button, you'll reset all of your skills. Of course, this requires a currency, which you can see right here. This currency is required in the game to do so, and when you do so, you're going to of course utilize that. It's gone, and you want to make sure you try to get more, so be careful. That's the Fate of the Abyss artifact. You want to make sure that you use these carefully, but it's going to allow you to backtrack on skills that maybe you regret investing in, maybe you tested, you didn't like it. So feel comfortable in testing, but don't run away with it and try to constantly reset is my advice, because getting those is not the easiest thing in the world. Past that, jumping past skills, that is the Others tab, which is the last tab in our menu. And this is where you're going to go for your saves, your loads. Of course, you can adjust your settings. You've got your photo mode, add-ons, license, credits, title screen, exit, all the things that you need to get in and out of the game, change your loads, save, you name it. Very, very important stuff. And of course, the game's got a wonderful autosave feature, but you're going to also want to have a hard save or two, depending on what you're doing. For me, I would suggest 2. That's just how I run. I'm kind of paranoid. But anyways, make sure you have your own save at any given time. And then of course in the tab down at the bottom, you press that right trigger and it takes you over to guides. And that shows you your various controls. That shows you all the different things you can do as far as quests, adventures, life, special equipment, you name it, abyss gears, all the wonderful things, which we're not going to talk about at camp. management, mini games, and abyss gears in this game. Too much in this guide, too much, but they're all here to be read about in this others tab. So make sure you check that out if you need it. The last thing I want to cover in this guide is talking about stealing and exploring. And so in Crimson Desert, the world is massive, y'all. I mean massive. When you open up the map here and you pull it all the way out, you can see it goes on and on for days. And there's so much to look at. I mean, it is a lot. When you come on into your little part of the world that you're exploring in, understand that there's so much layer and detail in what you can get into. It is unbelievable. Check every nook and cranny, guys. Take your time and explore it all. And a great place to start, of course, in the game is the nice, right here, Lion Crest Manor. And so let's use this as a staging ground to talk about what you can and can't do in the game and get what you can get away with and how it all works. And so first and foremost, anytime you want to steal or anytime you want to get into a door that you're not supposed to, there's two things that you absolutely must have. And one of those things, of course, is the mask, which you can see right here in my inventory. I have the mask that allows criminal behavior. Nice and simple, right? Tells you all about it. And then the other thing you need, of course, is keys. You need keys, folks, and lots of them. As you can see, I have 7 of them right here. Absolutely important. Gotta have your keys. Now, if you're struggling and you don't have a mask or a key, you of course can jump on into the map here. You can come right over here to the east or southeast side of the starting town over here in Herndon, and then you're going to come down and you're going to look right here at the back alley shop, and he will sell you masks, a mask and keys, and this will allow you to begin your criminal enterprising. Now, my favorite way to get a mask and or keys is by simply killing bandits. But if you're trying to go about it this way and you choose to go and buy, there's nothing wrong with that. Moving right along, let's jump into our criminal activities here at Lion Crest Manor. And as you can see, you can just simply come right up to the side. Remember, we can climb anything we want. And you go to the window, open it, and climb in. And bada boom. The area in which you wouldn't otherwise be allowed into, you are now in. You can walk right in to these closed rooms with a key, simply unlocking the door automatically. Keys are universal, and you'll find several chests in here, which mine are open because I've looted them already, but you walk up to them and you loot them. Make sure you check them all out. Of course, there's plenty more to pick up and loot around here, so make sure you take what you want. But what you're going to find in these chests is, of course, good equipment, and there's 2 items in particular that you are interested in, and that is right here on this side. You're going to find the Ronid Large Shield, and then you're going to find the Hawando Sword. And the Hawando Sword and the Ronid Shield are so good. They're absolutely amazing. You're also going to find the earrings that, well, an earring. You're going to find the engraved gold earring, which gives you a nice little movement bonus. But regardless, there's several really good items to be found here in this manor. So make sure you check it out. Come in here and loot it. You'll see a nice treasure chest icon on your screen and or scroll icons on your screen, letting you know there's things to be looted in the game, which, as I have said earlier in this guide, cannot be obtained any other way. So stealing is the way, y'all. But the Hawando and the Ronid Shield are 2 really good items that you absolutely want, but you don't just want those. You want so much more than just that. You're going to want to go after one really nice thing here in this area, and that is the gold bar. So we're going to just simply walk right on down here. We want to go out the other window, actually. And I'll fast forward for you, so that way you don't have to watch me clumsily wander around through this manor. And I'll show you. what we can get into. Now let's come around over here. We're going to run around the side, which I don't think anybody gets too fussed about you opening and climbing through windows. I have yet to see that, but I could always be wrong. We're going to simply climb into this side window right here. And bada boom, we are in. Once in, you can see there's lots of things that we can steal and interact with. Go at it, have fun, and do so. Now, let's talk about the stealing. Once you take an item and you steal, if you're in a concealed area, you'll notice the steal bar will pop up. I'll give you an illustration of that right now. We'll take this magnifying glass. There it says a crime. Theft has been committed, and we see that bar slowly draining away. There's no witnesses in here, so we have no concern, and that will fade away and be gone, period, dot. Now, if somebody were to witness you, or if you were to walk up to somebody or be witnessed with that crime bar still depleting, you would gain a bounty. So be aware of that, be cautious. I would avoid that as best as possible. When you do steal, you'll notice you take a hit to your reputation, but overall, it is inconsequential. You can easily get your reputation back by donating to beggars. It literally takes 2 seconds. Next little item you want to come in and get is right here in the Linecrest Manor. But the all-important item that I'm referring to is going to be right through these doors. You're going to go right downstairs. And I would not do this at night because, as you can see, we've got quite a few people. But when you come over this fireplace, make sure you turn it off, and then you can see where it says open fireplace. When you loot this and you go in there, you're going to pull out a gold bar, and that is super duper nice. So here we are. We have fast forward in time. We took a little nappy nap in the bed. Nice little 12-hour time skip. We can see that the manor is far less populated because everybody's out and about doing their thing. And we come right over here to this fireplace, and this is where we want to engage and grab that gold bar out of it. Now, of course, it takes time to respawn the gold bar unless it's been patched. I can't tell you where we're at now as of this recording, but in the past it respawns. You're able to loot it multiple times, but regardless, even if you're not, you can grab that gold bar, you can take it, and you can sell it over at the bank, which of course is right here, a small little tiny walk right across the way, for 500 silver. And that, folks, is going to get you the start that you need in this game and really set you up for success as far as having money and anything else you might need. So just throwing that out there. Definitely hope that helps you in the game. I hope this beginner's guide helps you in the game. I hope it's told you everything you needed and it's shown you everything you needed to see. And yeah, tell me all about it, guys. Drop down in the comments what helped you, what doesn't help you, what do you need, what would you like to see, what more can I expand on, and or what guides would you like to see from me otherwise. I hope this is nice and simple and compact, not too over detailed, and it gives you a nice feel for what the game's going to have and what you can expect. With that said, huge shout out and thank you to my soldiers. You guys and gals are the ones supporting me, making everything possible, keeping the content flowing and going, and I'm ever so grateful for y'all. Until next time, guys, I will catch you later. Bye.